Welcome back to Dad's Meet World. I am your dad spinning the records this week with our extra credit assignment for you. I'm Brett, and with me is your dad number 2.
Oh, I got detention again.
Just think of it as Hooked on Feeney.
I am Tyler, the second dad for this week.
Yes.
Thought we would start kicking around some bonus materials because why not? There's plenty of stuff we got to talk about with Boy Meets World. That's not just about specific episodes, but we may talk specific episodes too a little bit.
Exactly. And after a couple of seasons, well, even a season and a half of running through one episode at a time, you kind of get the itch to just throw in some extra stuff there. And so we decided to record some extra credit assignments for you. And so for this extra credit assignment, I decided I'd throw it out there to Tyler to challenge us to come up with our top 10 episodes of Boy Meets World. That was the only criteria given. I didn't assign us top 10 best or top 10 favorite, or even top 10 episodes that teach you a lesson, or top 10 episodes that feature a teacher dangling a lesson out there for the boys to learn, or even top 10 Topanga episodes. This is just top 10 episodes for whatever and however we decide.
Yep, exactly.
Now, just a little peek.
I had more I was going to say that I burped.
Now, just a little peek. All right, go for it.
Sorry, my bad. I was just going to say, like, sometimes people really get into, like, well, this is 1 through 10, and this is the exact order. And my personal take on top 10 lists is always that, you have, like, a 1, and then, like, the next couple tiers is, like, yeah, these are also close to, but not as favorite as the favorite. And then you have a bunch of other ones that you're like, I mean, number 5 and number 10 could switch back and forth, on any given day. So
that is fair, because it really, I like the tier analogy, because it really is a tiered list, because I've got, probably 3 or 4 that are at the top of my list that they belong at the top of the list. They'll never be dethroned. But as I was putting my list together, peek behind the curtain, good-looking people at home, I probably had 20 that I start out with. And this list challenge started out as top 7. I just threw the number 7 out there because there's 7 seasons. And I very quickly realized I had a list too long, so I said, okay, let's just round it up to 10. And, after those first 3 or 4, it becomes very, very fluid. And if I put this list together 2 weeks from now, those next 6 would probably have some fluctuation, because I've got, probably, I've got a good 8 or 9 honorable mentions that I'm not going to throw out there tonight. But I like the tier analogy. So
now that doesn't mean in the future we can't do a Dad's Meet World official top 10 list that we comprise, voted upon, and then we truly form.
Oh, at some point I will release a rankings based on the grades I give the episodes throughout each season. So there will be a list of which episodes pass and which episodes fail, and there will be a definitive ranking of my gradings.
Yeah. We may need to do a tier episode at some point.
I like that idea. That'll be another extra credit assignment. But that's enough talking.
Mr. Feeney's lessons. So let's talk about this top 10.
Yeah, so
/20.
Since this is a top 10 list, and with that caveat of this is really more of a tier, let's go ahead and go in reverse order just to keep with the top 10 language. And let's go reverse order from 10 down to 1. So, Tyler, since I'm hosting, I'll give this as a guess to you. What is your number 10 on your list?
So number 10 on my list, and I actually had to Google because I thought I had spelled it wrong in my phone. I went, what is this name of this episode? That doesn't make any sense to me. And then I try like, oh, okay. So my number 10 is I Love You, Donna Karen,
Ah.
which is the first part to the Sean falls in love with Angela storyline,
Mm-hmm.
where we first meet really Angela as a true character, because her and Sean are on a date. And then apparently Sean at this point has a 2-week rule. Once he's done dating a girl for 2 weeks, he breaks up with her, finds a purse, realizes that he likes the girl who has all the stuff in the purse. And that's when Sean gets his heart broken because the girl has a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
But there's a twist.
Yeah.
We can't get to that right now. That's for part 2. And my favorite is the first part, not the second part.
Yeah, it does. The second part does. I'm with you. I like the first part better. It is interesting seeing Sean, right?
It leans
gotta
too
figure out
much
who the
in
purse
the
girl is.
Corey and Topanga been dating forever angle. And it's like, okay, I get they've been dating forever, but like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that, though. I really do.
Yep.
My number 10, I went a little bit slapstick with the number 10. Season 7, Episode 6, They're Killing Us.
That is an
yes.
amazing episode.
For those of you who don't do titles as deeply as I do, this is the episode right before Corey and Topanga finally tie the knot, where Corey and Topanga are filmed in documentary style format, sharing with the camera, who it turns out at the end is their family, why they just need to go ahead and get married next week, or whatever, because everything is driving them crazy. Alan is trying to figure out how to get the wedding done cheaply. Amy is just really enforcing her idea of style on the bridesmaids. Topanga's got her bridesmaids.
Come on!
Amy is trying to share her own wedding dress. And of course, we've got George Feeney playing some trumpet. And yes, Eric and his confession of love for Topanga and wanting to make Nick. It's just hilarious.
I mean, I feel like you need to play the clip right now.
I don't still have it in my soundboard, I don't think.
Oh, that should always be in your soundboard.
Oh, let me look here. Is it still in here?
Yes.
I'll drop it in post.
I just want to make sure it's clear to the people that because, like, in Boy Meets World fashion, you don't always recognize the episode based on the title, because the title doesn't always go along with what's actually happening, They're trying to be, like, fancy and all that jazz, so a lot of times I'll be like, wait, what is this episode? Like, oh, yeah, that's it. So I'm just sitting here Googling all of them, because I'm like, I have all of them written down. I just didn't put a description by it.
Oh, yes. So that is my number 10.
Yes.
What's your number 9, Tyler?
So number 9 for today is Father Knows Less.
Oh,
The third episode of the first season.
We have a match. That is my number 9 as well.
Very nice. My big thing, well, first of all, in my top 10, I wanted to make sure that each season was represented.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about this episode, and it's one of those episodes that's really stuck with me since we reviewed it. And just now being a dad and reflecting on that interaction between Feeney and Alan, and them still being respectful to one another, and Corey just being so confused by these two adults that, and trying to figure out, like, well, which one's wrong? It's like, well, neither one of them's really wrong. It's just they have two different perspectives.
Yep.
But they both learn something and grow from this.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah, and I'm right there with you. It hits me really hard as a dad, and I can't say I've kept any of my kids up for a no-hitter on the West Coast, but there have been times where I have had to make tough choices on when to butt heads with other authority figures and when not to, and when to take the back seat and realize that There are things I want to do with them that will interfere with other responsibilities that they have to school and other things that they have made commitments to.
Yep.
Yeah. So number 9 for both of us, Father Knows Less.
Plus, I gotta say, one of the coolest acting moments is when Mr. Feeney, William Daniels, just gets really serious about who he was as a child, and helping Corey understand of this is almost like the trauma that I bring into my life and understanding, and like it was almost like Alan in a way hurt him unintentionally because he's doing something with his dad that his dad wouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
What he did with Corey that Feeney's dad would not do for himself. So it's just this nice moment of reflection from both of them, which I just love. So
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah.
So number 8.
Number 8.
Well, since you stole my number 9, why don't you give your number 8 this
All
time?
right. Well, my number 8 is going to be from season 3, episode 18, Life Lessons. This would be the episode where tensions are running high as exam week looms near. Mr. Feeney is considering retirement because he kind of feels like an old dinosaur and just doesn't feel like he's getting through to his students anymore. And this group of hoodlums just doesn't want to take the test, and they decide to trash his house, trash the school, and it's just. It's up to Corey and Sean and Topanga to try and help these guys understand that there's still enough that Mr. Feeney has left to teach them that it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, it's also a great episode because it really puts to point of who is Sean. Is Sean the guy who is a part of the crowd that's messing with Feeney's house? Is he part of the crowd that's going to go mess with the school? Or is he someone who's going to do the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I really do love this episode. I've actually used this episode for teaching purposes for adult leaders and helping them understanding about, teenagers can be difficult.
Yep.
How do we handle them? And what do we do?
Indeed.
Especially when we have no patience. So that's a good one. As I say, almost every single one, regardless of if they're on my list or your list, I know both of us are going to go, I love that episode.
Yep. So what's your number 8?
Yeah. So number 8 is Everybody Loves Stewart.
Oh, that one nearly made my list.
Mm-hmm. It's a great episode. It's the first time because Corey, Topanga, they're in college and they have this new professor. I'm guessing it's an English class that they're all taking or something. But they have a young professor, and it's so great they have this young guy professor, and he makes a move on Topanga and makes it very clear that, he'll keep doing it until he gets what he wants, which is apparently her. And Corey does not handle that lightly and pushes him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just this moment when the doors open and the dun 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 dun.
Jonathan Cumberland for the defense.
It's one of my favorite bits he does in the whole show. Just the seriousness, and then he pops over the briefcase and puts the recorder up and clicks it off. It's such a serious episode because, especially the content, especially in light of the Me Too movement, but golly, they do a good job of having this incredible joke, and Eric is just like on point, of supporting his brother, but on the same token, just being himself.
Oh yeah, it's just fantastic.
Yes. Now, again, in all seriousness, a teacher is very much inappropriate, and I don't love the episode for that. I'm really uncomfortable by that, but it is such a great episode about them really becoming adults.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you do in these situations, and how are you going to handle this? And them also appreciating who Feeney is to them.
Yes.
And you really get to see the protective side of Feeney come out in this episode.
Yes, and we've talked about clashes with Feeney and Turner here early in season 2, just from a philosophical standpoint from their teaching seventh graders, but to see that clash from how they handle teaching young adults, it gets so much more serious at Pembroke, and to see that type of
Hmm.
that defensive care that comes out of Mr. Feeney for Topanga and for Corey, it's really powerful.
Hmm. Well, I mean, you've experienced it, and so have I. Of not your child, but you're ready to protect them and defend them.
Mm-hmm.
You
Indeed.
know, you're right there, ready to support, and whatever you got to do, you're gonna do. And realizing that they're growing up and you can't do anything about it is scary.
It is. It is indeed. And
So
speaking of
I'll go
growing,
ahead and give my number 7
go
because
for it.
you went first. I figured we should get us back on track. But number 7 is As Time Goes By.
Ah.
Yes. Now, this has always been one of my favorites. Honestly, tomorrow it could be number 2. That's how much I love this episode. Um, so it's always been one of my favorites because I love when they do those episodes that are just completely wacky, completely out there. They put this really flimsy way of episoding to get where we need to go. But at least they explain it. Um, but there's more of the only reason why it's not up higher is because it's more of a sentimental reason that it's on here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've shared before with I think with the dear viewers that one of my children is in heaven. And while his body was still with us, we were in the hospital. I watched this episode with him, and it's one of those episodes that I go back to. It reminds me of him. It also just brings me joy. And it's also an episode that my oldest son goes, I want to watch the funny one where they're in black and white and they're silly.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's aware of that. That's the episode that we watch. And so it's almost like a family bonding thing for us all
Mm-hmm.
of, hey, we're all kind of not doing good today. Let's watch that episode. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure it's one that I'll end up watching with Henry eventually as well. Actually, when we were in the hospital with Henry, I did put this episode on and I said, honey, you got to watch this episode because this is just a thing we do now.
Yep. It's a good tradition. Yeah.
Yes. Although this time instead of just being on my phone, I brought a projector to the hospital. So I had my projector set up and we're watching it. And my wife just kept looking at me like, I cannot believe you brought that. I said, I know, but isn't it great?
Can't argue with it. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Feds it.
Apparently, maintenance wise, that was a wrong thing for me to do and I should not have done that. But all the nurses loved it. So,
Of course.
yeah. So what's your number 7, Brett?
My number 7 is going back to season 2. Wake Up Little Corey.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Oh, yeah. And good looking people, we covered it from the date of this recording, just a handful of weeks prior. Corey and Topanga inadvertently spend the night at the school while working late on their video assignment about love and sex and dating. This episode has long been a part of my routine, so to speak. I have used it as a teaching resource. I have used it to start many a discussion with teenagers, and it's just, even bringing in all of the, shall we say, negative energy of our guests about the patriarchy. There's truth to it. It paints a very realistic picture of the double standard that young men and women and old men and women face, especially the women, when it comes to stuff like that. And it's always going to be in my top 10 list, and it's always going to be one I'll go back to, just because I love the way that Corey has to sit in his mistake, his boneheaded mistake, and I like that he doesn't get off easy.
Yeah. Well, and it's definitely in my honorable mentions. It easily could have been in my top 10. And I that's another episode that's really sat with me since we've done it, and I've thought about that a lot. At the time of recording, last time we recorded was I brought up the whole Marilyn Monroe thing. Again, I don't doubt that it could have been a thing, but on the same token, how much is it just rumor that destroys reputations, you know? And I think I've sat on a lot more about things stick onto women a lot longer and a lot worse than it does to men.
Indeed.
You know, I think, not saying, how do I say this? I think that if someone I don't know says something to me or about me, it may annoy me, may frustrate me, but eventually I'm going to be like, I don't care about that person. But if someone says something super negative to my wife, I know it really sits with her a lot longer. You know, or tries to imply something about her character that isn't true, you know. And it's a really good representation as well of parenting, because they didn't try to give them the answers, and they didn't try to. They just let them sit in it. It's always the best way to put it. And I like that Sean tried to come over and go, "You are a god." And the moment he heard that, "Why is my son so godlike?"
Yep. He made his bed and he had to lie in it.
Yeah. It's you know, and I think whenever when we were reviewing initially, I said, "Oh, probably, you know, Amy was angry and he got angry too," but I think in general, Alan is probably the most disappointed he's ever been in his son.
Yeah.
Just like you're allowing someone to think this about you, and it's not true, and you know that it's impacting your friend negatively. And again, you're allowing that to happen.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so number 6. Again, this could easily be top 5. A Long Walk to Pittsburgh, Part 2.
Ooh, you went Part 2.
I did want Part 2. Now, this is probably anytime they do the Part 1, Part 2, one of the most fluid and well done from Part 1 to Part 2, like a true actual, you know, 1 part, 2 part. It could have been it's one whole episode, like been a super episode, and I don't think anyone would have realized it. Like that's how good it is together. But really, the second episode has something that the first one doesn't, and that is just this true, deep, gut wrenching like conversation about, do these two actually love each other? And is that enough to justify their actions? Like, is this relationship enough to say, yes, let's disregard parents' wishes? And I love Amy more and more as I get older for her stance on, no, it is not. It is irresponsible for what you're doing. But also, she still defended them and even said it's wrong for the two of them to be separated. So it's that double-edged sword as a parent of like, On this side, yes, I disagree. But on this side, the one that's more important, I do agree.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also we see a different side of Feeney, a much more hopeful, much more romantic, and kind-hearted Feeney in a way.
Yes, a little less authoritarian Feeney.
Mm-hmm.
Not the administrator, more of the guardian.
Yeah,
Yes.
good way to put it.
Plus, it's always good to see an aunt that wants to stick it to uh,
Jedediah.
Jedediah. And is she Chloe at this point, or is she gone
Yeah.
on to Rhiannon? I forget.
Who's to say?
Oh, I can't remember which name she's got at that point. We'll get there. We'll get there, good-looking people.
Oh yeah.
Ah. Well, my number 6 is an emotional gut punch as well. Season 6, episode 13. We'll have a good time then.
Ooh.
Chet comes back into town and shows back up on campus. He's hustling some kids at the pool table. And he wants to make amends with Sean and Jack for never being there. And spoiler alert, Chet dies at the end of the episode. Good looking people. And it's an emotional ringer for Sean, especially because he's got a lot to go through during the episode, because he's got a lot to deal with where he's wrestling with Chet is who he is. And Chet is the emotional, shall we say, butterfly that kind of is here and then gone and here and then gone. And Sean sees himself just like that. And, you know, he's back again, but for how long? And is he really going to stay? And when he finally commits to, yes, I'm here, he's gone forever. And just when Boy Meets World pulls out all the stops, it pulls out all the stops. And it's just when the ER doc comes out and shakes his head and says, "I'm sorry, boys." I mean, every time I watch it, doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. I mean, I get that knot in my throat.
Mm-hmm. It's a really great episode. Especially because it's almost like he is being the dad Sean always hoped he could be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a great reminder for you, we don't know how long we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think about almost on a weekly basis of I don't know how long I'll have with my boys, and I'd hate for them if something, God forbid, anything were to happen to me before they become teenagers. Of how will they know how they should go through life? Will they know what the right thing to do and what the right thing to say is? And so I think selfishly, part of the reason that I wanted to start this podcast and start talking about parenting and also about a show I love so deeply is, just to put out there of, hey, these are Dad's thoughts. And even if at some point Dad isn't around to communicate these thoughts, they're out there somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
And as sad as to say, they did an incredible job taking a really sad moment of losing his dad and allowing Chet to come in that ghost-like form or angel-like form, however you want to put it,
Mm-hmm.
almost like an Obi-Wan coming out of nowhere.
Yep.
Because the moments that he would come, just you would get these great insights for Sean of how to help himself move forward. And whether that's Sean saying these things or getting some truth out of nowhere and just attributing to his dad, who's to say? It's a TV show. Episode is gonna episode.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, the best Sean or Chet Hunter showing up is in Girl Meets World. It's one of my favorite dad pep talk speeches to his son, but we'll get to that eventually. Um,
Down the road, good-looking people.
Way down the road. All right.
So what's
so
your
let's
number
get to the-
5? Top 5 now.
Yes, let's get to the creme de la creme, as they say.
Cream does rise
It's
to
about
the top.
time.
Oh, yeah, the big wedding.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's the wedding time. Corey is being a jerk to Sean. Sean is getting angry, even calls him a white boy at one point. Just,
Eric. I'm just laughing at Eric throughout the whole thing.
pick me. You know you want to pick me. We come from our father's loins.
Trailer trash
gosh.
is
It's just
crying.
what?
Trailer trash is crying.
Yeah.
Or however he
Just-
phrases it. Yeah.
It's a good okay. On one hand, everyone is at an 11, which is incredible for humor, especially for things like you could tell Sean he could kiss my tuchus in hell. Tell him that we have a limo. Is that before or after the tuchus in hell? But also like this friendship, which has always been really odd and strange and questionable, like just has this truly raw of like, are we going to change now? This deep connection we have, is that going away, or are we still going to be us? It's just a great episode, especially because Eric really comes through as the big brother and best man.
He does.
It's just it's one of those episodes that you can any point that's on there, I know I'm gonna watch it through. If I walk in, I see it's that episode's on, I'm gonna sit down and enjoy it because it's every bit of it is just perfect.
Yep.
And you really see all that Topanga is dealing with.
It's my turn now.
Yes, I think I've been very tolerant.
Yeah. Do you really like her?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
All right, what's your number 5, Brett?
My number 5, season 3, stormy weather.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah. Eric has landed an internship at a TV station, and he gets so busy there, he decides to quit school to focus on it completely. And he winds up with his dream job filling in. He is the weatherman for the week, but finds out that he's quit school. It's only an internship. He can't have the internship if he's not at school. And I think the best part of the whole episode for me is what happens between him and Alan, because it comes to this head where I can definitely see myself in Alan, where it gets to the point where Eric's 18th birthday has come around. He doesn't need to be in school because he's 18. He's going to drop out. And there's this whole big exchange where, well, fine, you're gonna pay rent. If you're gonna live here, you're not gonna go to school. You're gonna pay rent. And Alan doesn't even wish him a happy birthday, and yet they're able to reconcile. And it's just. And you got the fun stuff with like Corey walking out and coming back and losing his mittens, and Eric serving the crew coffee in their kitchen and like taking a hammer and chipping the cup that's decaf. But yeah, it's just the heart of the story is this whole Eric school and his dream job, and this conflict it causes in every part of his life. It's top 5 for me, easy.
Yeah. It's actually my number 2.
Oh.
Yeah. Like I said, all my top can bounce around, but this is exactly for the reason you said. Just this interaction with Alan and Eric, and it's a conversation I have with my son as often as I possibly can. I just want you to try. I just want you to do your best. And I think for Alan, he's seeing that his son is not doing his best. Yes, he's living out a dream right now, but Alan knows that the dream could be gone tomorrow. You have no guarantees. You don't have the a credibility, like the credits you need, and to the sorry, not the credits, but just you know what I mean. You don't have the
Yeah.
background to be able to keep this thing going. They're not going to hire you, so don't just stop what you're doing, especially don't drop out of school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
excuse me.
So what do you got for number
it's just
4?
so, all right. So number 4, I'm just going to describe a scene to you.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you figure out which one it is. So we come into the apartment, the guy's apartment, and they're sitting on a couch, Sean and Angela. And all of a sudden, the couch is rumbling a little bit. And Topanga walks out and goes, "You're crushing Eric."
For Love in Apartments.
Angela's men.
Yeah, Angela's Man. Okay, yeah.
I bring up first the blooper because it's by far it's the thing I laugh at the hardest ever. Okay, so episode prior, dear viewers, we're not there yet, so I'll let you know. The guys have an apartment. Eric, Sean, and his future brother Jack, and the girls of Topanga, Angela, and a new character Rachel, essentially kick him out of that apartment. And they wrestle for it. The guys lose, thanks to some help from WWE legend Mankind Mick Foley. Anywho, so the next episode, Eric is obsessed with getting back at Topanga. Because even though his good friend Rachel, former roommate, and also Angela also were part of this whole kicking out of Eric, he is obsessed with getting back at Topanga and is going crazy. Like, Eric is at a 15 in this episode, and it is amazing. Like, I don't know if they just let Will Friedle like write things or just say take Eric however you want to take him, but it is just bonkers. And then you have this very serious, like, Sean is trying to impress Angela's father. And so it's like this really heart-wrenching, like, why won't you take me back? Like, we are so similar and we love each other. Let's stop fighting that. And this really emotional moment where Angela has to admit she's scared because she sees a future with Sean and fears that she's going to hurt him. And then the episode ends with the greatest blooper ever, and they can't. Normally, it's a just a last minute joke, and they just can't do it.
One of the only bloopers that ever aired as part of the episode.
It's amazing, and just every time they just can't do it, and seeing Will Friedle just in this couch costume is incredible every time.
It is.
If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. If you haven't watched it, what are you doing here? Knock this crap off. You need to see this good stuff, my friends.
Oh, yes.
Anywho, what's your number 4, Brett?
My number 4 is season 4, episode 3. I Ain't Gonna Spray Lettuce No More.
Ooh.
Alan quits his job at the grocery store, Market Giant, without discussing it with Amy. So in retaliation, Amy promises to make a drastic decision, a unilateral decision, without consulting the rest of the family either. And winds up buying the camping supply store, the outdoor store. And it's really kind of fun because the subplot that runs through is Corey learning how to be poor from Sean.
Eater, you're an eater.
But I really love the storyline between Alan and Amy. Just this, I don't blame Alan at all for the decision he makes, but he did not communicate well. And when we get to this season, when we get to this episode, I'll go in depth, I'm sure, but the communication needed to happen, and Amy is completely justified in how she decides to act and in what she does and how she goes about it. Alan has no leg to stand on in her having her own unilateral decision to make that impacts the entire family.
Yep, I agree completely. That's a great episode. It really is, and Amy is amazing in that episode as well.
Plus, they sell stuff to Mr. Feeney, who never buys stuff from the previous owner. Nice little crossover acting job from Home Improvement too. So,
I'm gonna change up my original list. I mean, I'm the only one looking at it right now. So since we already talked about stormy weathers, I feel like I can adjust that a little bit and talk about another episode, specifically about parenthood and father, son, and everything like that. So my number 3 is now going to be Raging Corey from from season 5. It's such a great episode for that dynamic that I know that I'm still living with, of being being the second son and seeing the relationship that my father has with my brother, and probably what my brother sees with the relationship that I have with my dad, and just I mean, for the show's purposes, they end up having a completely different relationship, like so dramatic of a difference, I don't think that is the case with me and my dad. I have to say, I don't think I only get one part of himself. My dad's pretty much an open book with all of us. So, but I love just the thing I keep thinking about is when Eric has a mustache and calling himself Dr. Shapiro. And then I can't remember which one it is, but one of them tried to call all the Philadelphia hospitals to find out if any 40-year-old men came in with basketball injuries. It's like, that many, huh?
Yeah. I've shamed my
yeah,
father.
It's a really good episode. And then also, Feeney coming in at like midnight being like,
he knocked you on your keister, man.
Feeney, everything okay? No, Alan. No, it's not. Nobody called. No one came over. Something happened. People come over.
I love it.
Would you like to come in? Yes, I'd like to come in. I'd like to talk about it, and then I can go to bed.
Yes, this one almost made my list as well. It just narrowly got edged out, but there's so much great stuff in it.
And again, this is the thing and this is why we're doing this podcast, is because there's just so many episodes we love, and there's such good stuff in this show.
There is. Yeah.
It's a good thing we're the only ones that thought about it, too.
I know. There's no other Boy Meets World podcasts out there, so, don't go looking for them.
Exactly.
My number 3 is episode 20 of season 5, Starry Night.
Ooh,
Yes,
very nice.
Yeah. I believe I previously mentioned it as my top, but it fluctuates. But during the whole Corey, Topanga, Lauren arc, this is right there at the end. This is how they get back together. But Topanga goes to an art exhibit with Angela. They see Van Gogh's Starry Night. And just Starry Night is probably my favorite piece of art, period. I have a poster of it hanging in the other room that I have had since college. I've probably mentioned it on the podcast before that I got it in college because I lived in a house with 8 other guys. We wanted to class up the house and make it look like we were cultured. And so, it's my favorite piece of art, so I got a poster for it. And so that has survived almost 20 years now. And several moves. But to see such drastically different interpretations of that painting between Corey and Topanga that are coming from where they are in the world and in their relationship, and seeing Topanga go out with this old friend and seeing how Corey is the only person left that has any faith left in their relationship surviving. It's seeing all that hope still alive in him after all this, and seeing it expressed in this painting for him, it really just reflects, it just resonates with me. And so any show that's going to feature Starry Night is always going to be good in my book, but they really did a really good job with it in this one.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a great episode. And it's a classic one that people will go back to, mostly for the moment of Corey and Topanga getting back together on the monkey bars. And it's a really cute way for them to getting back together. Mostly because Corey isn't fully listening, and they're both trying to tell each other that they love each other, and, missing the fact that they're both trying to say it at the same time.
Yep.
No, it's a great episode. It really is. And it has its flaws for me, for sure. But probably just Sean being annoyed with Corey's optimism is one of my favorite parts as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
Well, my now number 2, which I'm not really happy that's my number 2, but it is what it is.
It's your
So
list.
we're going to go with the happiest show on Earth. Oh, crap. I did that thing where in my head, I was like, I know exactly which one that is. And now I think I have the wrong one.
Well, the happiest show on Earth is the one where Corey heads down to Disney World to chase Topanga.
That's what I thought it was. I was getting Eric Goes to Hollywood confused.
Yes.
Yes, no. So after this is in season 3, Corey and Topanga are officially broken up, and Corey's thinking, I think I need to get back together with Topanga because I'm dating a bunch of other girls. Apparently, he's being a little more Sean-like, and just isn't interested in it at all, and starts to see Topanga all over the place. And so decides that because Topanga's going to Florida for some project thingy bobber class trip, apparently out of nowhere, contest win, episode after episode. This is the Disney episode that every single 90s show had to do at one point. Yes. And so they got to go to Disney World. So Corey and Sean travel beside chickens to go find her so he can confess his love for her. Just some really weird things occur, and we'll get to this episode. Like, as an adult, this episode doesn't really hold up. But in the romanticness of Disney World, just all the things they do, and also just Corey's such a desperate attempt to win his girl back. It's just, I'm nostalgic for this episode, I'll be honest. Should it probably be number 10 at this point on my list? Yeah, but you know what? It's a great episode, and I still adore it.
It hits all the rom-com beats. I mean, yeah, there's parts of it that definitely don't hold up, but yeah, it hits all the rom-com beats.
And we have a step-by-step crossover, finally.
There is the step-by-step crossover with Stacey
Oh, sorry.
Keenan.
Step-by-step, day by day.
Contractually obligated.
Yes, contractually obligated.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, as an adult, as a parent, I have a lot of questions, but good golly, it's just adorable watching these kids get back
there's
together.
Eric at home with his Corey dummy, and
Yeah,
freaking
and
out
Eric
Mr.
being
Feeney.
a good big brother. Just
Mr. Matthews,
did I just
see you put your brother in the locker?
Yes.
There is some good stuff.
I also love that was an excellent oral report, Mr. Matthews. Thank you.
There is some gold in there.
So what's your number 2, Brett?
My number 2, season 5, episode 17. I'll give you. I'll do a riff on your game. The door opens. Howdy ho!
We'll always remember he was this tall.
There you go. And then there was Sean. The gang finds themselves locked in the school all alone during detention, and everyone starts to die. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, dun, dun, dun. It is the infamous riff on horror movies. Everyone's picked off one by one, and soon they realize that it's all in Sean's mind. He has dreamed the whole situation, and as a fan of horror movies, as a fan of the genre, it's going to rank high. It's such a well done episode on so many levels, and it's the message behind it all that for the first time in his life, something has gone wrong. And Sean is not involved. Sean is not responsible, and he doesn't know how to fix it. He doesn't know what he can do to make it right. And this is just his subconscious trying to work it out. And he can't figure it out. And the two most important people in his life, he can't fix it.
It's essentially like he has a identity crisis. Because I do think that part of Sean's identity is I'm the mess that Corey and Topanga have to keep fixing. So if they're no longer together, what does that mean for me? This is right around my top 10. It easily could have been in my top 10, no problem. It's a fantastic episode with a lot of great references. It truly is. I mean, there's no parents whatsoever in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And the teenagers just are at an 11 the whole time. Even the point where Angela is the scream queen of this episode.
This group already has a screamer. You got Jennifer Love Pfefferman. Yes, I too read Teen Beat, joke. Mr. Hunter. I know what borrowing a pencil means, Kenny.
No one has borrowed more pencils than me. They're not divorced, Kenny. It's a trial separation.
I didn't know seniors still got detention. They do. One should wait until...
I'm not in my regular seat.
It's so quotable. I can't wait till we get to that episode. We got a few seasons, good-looking people. So, Tyler, what is your top episode?
Well, I have to ask you the question, Brett. Is your top episode from season 5 as well?
Actually,
season 4, I mean.
My top episode is from season 4.
Season 4? Okay. Does it potentially have a Mr. Turner in it?
It does have Mr. Turner in it.
Is Eric, my gosh, I'm really ruining this thing. Is Sean supposed to be staying with the Matthews?
I'm trying to remember if that element is part of it. I honestly don't remember if that story
That's okay.
is part of it.
I didn't know if we actually had the same one as we've gone on. We have not talked about the one that's my top one, so I didn't know if it was also your top one. But
I don't know. Hit me with your top one.
My top one from season 4, Cult Fiction.
That is mine as well, yes.
I had a feeling. To me, hands down, and I'll let you talk, this is the most perfect episode that you can make for Boy Meets World. It has ridiculous silliness from several characters. You have great interactions with parents and Feeney. Mr. Turner is there randomly and trying to relate and help Sean.
Hmm.
and you have Sean going through an identity crisis and trying to understand who is he, what does he actually believe,
Hmm.
and you have great interactions with Corey and Sean and their relationship, and Topanga trying to support and help, and it is, for lack of a better word, it is a beautiful episode.
Yes, it really is, and I echo all of that. And just the idea that um, this whole arc with Mr. Mac coming in, that Mr. Feeney has been trying for such a long time to even get this individual shut down, that Mr. Feeney comes to Sean's defense, that Alan is ready to come to blows with him for even showing up, and that it comes down to Sean being forced to confront mortality in a hospital room with Mr. Turner, who has, up to this point, been more of a father figure to him than his own biological father, who a handful of episodes previous was discussing signing legal guardianship papers with him because his own father was not planning on being back anytime soon. And it at this point, I mean, Corey and Topanga walk out and leave Sean there with Mr. Turner, potentially brain dead, and his only recourse is to cry out to God. And it's not something that the show really ever goes into much depth about in at any point. But to see Sean go through such a through 4 seasons up to this point, he has gone through so many swings in his identity, but he's always been searching for that North Star, that cornerstone to build everything on. And it's always been a shifting sand type of a cornerstone for him. And it kind of feels like this is something he can build on for the remainder of this series, where he finds something real. And it's definitely not Mr. Mac. And being able to walk out of that hospital room and let him know that he's only coming back to gather his stuff. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need Mr. Mac. He doesn't need the center. I've used this countless times as a teaching element, as a discussion starter, even with, it goes on and on. I've used this across 3 different states with multiple churches. I've lost count of how many times I've viewed this episode. I've talked about it. When we get to it to review it, that's probably going to be a 3-hour long episode. It's just that good for me. But I mean, I could talk about it all night. It's just that powerful of an episode, and like you said, it is quite possibly the perfect Boy Meets World episode.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. I was going to say, I kind of pushed my microphone away just so I could listen to you, because it's one of those episodes that, like, there's so much in here that to truly capture all of it just in us both talking about it and giving it praise right now, we're not going to be able to hit it. Even when we actually do this episode, which, spoiler alert, is going to be A pluses. In my head, and you can probably cut this at this point, but like, we may have to do this as almost as a 2-part episode, and potentially have more voices, like not record the whole time with us, but like in different segments, like talking about it with us, because there's just so much here on a teacher front, on a parental front, on cults and understanding of what the difference between a religion/relationship with God looks like and what a cult actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And our responsibility as adults to protect young people and help them to not understand and getting confused on what those two things are and the differences. And there's so much in this episode. This may be a special 5-part episode for us.
It's a series.
And honest to goodness, it might be. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm fine with if we want to release all of them all at once, so that way you can listen to all of them. Because I mean, there's so much in here, and it's so good. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. Other than just it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I relate to every single character, and also, and I'll even say this about Mr. Mac, it really shaped who I am as someone in leadership of being careful that I am not like Mr. Mac and that I'm not making false promises and trying to boost my ego and come off as fake. And how do I do that? And so at any point, if I'm like, I'm acting more like him than I am me, then I need to be concerned and worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So my real question, Brett, is for the listeners, what's their top 10?
Yeah, we'd love to hear what your top 10 is. Good-looking people, you can email us your top 10 list. You can leave a comment on YouTube, leave us a comment on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at dadsmeetworld on any of those three. We'd love to hear from you. We love lists. We love tier lists. Let us know if you can't number them 1 through 10. Give us a tier list. What's your A? What's your B? What's your C? What's your superior? However you want to break it down.
I'll even say it. The first list, top 10 list we get, that person's getting a T-shirt.
There you go.
So,
well, Tyler, this extra credit assignment I think is worthy of pass. I don't think we failed. I think we passed. So
I hope so.
I'll see you.
We had the answers to the test.
We did. We had the answers. We were well prepared. Number 2 pencils for everyone. So until next time, good looking. I'll see you.
To you, good looking.
All right.